The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Despina Afentouli, and this is Modern Odyssey on BronxNet and beyond. Today, we're going to explore questions raised on democracy, human rights, and technology during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to 2020 report by Research Institute Freedom House, democracy is in crisis around the world as governments take advantage of the coronavirus pandemic to tighten controls and conduct human rights abuses. According to the same source, governments have responded by engaging in abuses of power, silencing their critics, and weakening or shattering important institutions, often undermining the very systems of accountability needed to protect public health. Our guest today is the multi-awarded Donovan Family Professor of Computer Science at Columbia University in New York, Mr. Christos H. Papadimitriou, who is considered as one of the leading computer science theorists worldwide. He works on algorithms and complexity and has, through this, contributed to the scientific fields of biology and evolution, economics and game theory, artificial intelligence and robotics, networks and the internet, and the study of the brain. He has taught at Berkeley, Harvard, MIT, Athens Polytechnic, Stanford, and the University of California in San Diego. He has a PhD from Princeton and 9 honorary doctorates. He is a writer of a great number of scientific articles and textbooks, and also 3 novels, including the New York Times bestseller, Logicomics. He is a member of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States, the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the National Academy of Engineering, and the Committee Greece 2021. Professor Papadimitriou, hello, and welcome to our show.
Hello, Despina, nice to be here.
Professor Papadimitriou, humanity has experienced pandemics in the past as well. And as mentioned on the New Yorker, the historian Neil Ferguson referred to the ways in which pandemics have historically infected politics, stretching back to the plague of Athens, which induced or oversaw the Peloponnesian War, and to ways that the 1918 flu may have triggered the rise of both Bolshevism and fascism. According to your opinion, what changes do you foresee that the COVID-19 pandemic will bring in politics and especially in democracy as a system of government today or in the near future?
Very well put. I'm not sure why Ferguson says this about the pandemic of 18 and fascism and Bolshevism. Bolshevism was before, fascism was after, and probably the World War I was much more consequential for all of this. But he's absolutely right that pandemics in the past have influenced politics, and indeed they have influenced politics now, this pandemic. For example, I believe the government of China has been strengthened, of India and Iran and UK has been weakened, and probably the pandemic lost the election to Trump. Okay, so it is very consequential. Now, will it change democracy? It may. Little and big dictators all over the world basically seek excuses to expand their powers. And we have seen, for example, a recent coup in Myanmar. It will definitely change many other things like work. So work will never be the same now that you have learned that you can work this way. And coming back to politics, you noticed that one profession that hasn't followed the trend of telework is politicians. So the House of Representatives has been in session, the Senate with masks and everything, and famously disrupted a month ago. It's an interesting choice that politicians continue to person, face-to-face. And in my opinion, part of the reason is that if they went to also telework, this might give people the idea that why do we need politicians then? Why don't we all legislate?
Professor Papadimitriou, it is often argued that human rights are the first casualty in times of crisis. For the protection of public health during the current pandemic, freedom of movement has been restricted and online privacy is questioned, as apart from telework, social distancing and personal and social activities are encouraged. It has been argued that whoever controls all these large databases online is gaining an advantage, but yet the question raised is what this information is being used for. You have mentioned that we're living the age of universal surveillance, and I know that you have a personal experience about the evolution of computer and the internet since 1976. Please elaborate more about it.
It's true that data has become very valuable, okay? Data has become very valuable the last 20 years, and the reason is that concentration of data taught us how to handle it, how to exploit it, and how to get a lot of information out of it, okay? So this has happened, and of course, governments, with the best possible intentions, they should use data about mobility, about contacts between people and so on in order to help our struggle against the pandemic. Data is very important for many reasons, okay? It helps good governance and crisis management. Data lies nowadays at the basis of scientific truth, and science is definitely something that we value and we should trust and support. When people talk about the age of surveillance or surveillance by capitalism or global surveillance, what is really meant is that both governments and big companies take our data and get immense value out of that. And this exchange is fundamentally unequal, okay, especially between big companies and ourselves, the public and the users. This asymmetry is a fundamental breach of fairness, democracy, and actually basic economics. I have been a student of the internet the last 25 years. For most of this time, I was the internet's most enthusiastic fan. Okay, so I really thought that it was the greatest hope of humanity for the kind of global information communication, entertainment, contact communication between humans that the world needs. But unfortunately, the last few years, the last decade perhaps, in front of our eyes, the internet turned into something that is much less benign and some kind of data plantation. It's a vast realm in which people live their lives apparently for generating data for these big companies, okay? And these big companies process this data, they train machines using this data, they become better businesses based on this data, and they exploit the users more, okay? So
can you give us some examples of what kind of data are being used from companies or whoever interested?
Oh, you know about deep learning, okay? So, the deep nets, how machines can predict behavior of people and of course also of scientific systems, but certainly of individuals through training on extensive data sets collected from these and similar people, okay? From of whom we know everything, okay? So this kind of access to data is incredibly powerful nowadays. In many ways, what you appropriate through data is our life. And using our life, you can predict what happens next in our and other people's lives, okay? What you are going to shop next, what is the best advertisement that can be shown to you next. And this gives immense advantages to these companies. The idea has been proposed and is gaining ground. And in fact, there are legislation in California and European Union to that effect, that the big companies who collect and use this data from people should pay back. They amass trillions in valuations in wealth from this data, so maybe they should give a good part of it back to the people who provided this data.
And some of this information is provided by the people without knowing that this information is being used by the companies, right?
I believe that we all know that it's used by the companies. It's not like they don't warn us, okay? And if we all have the time and the mind to read carefully the 10 pages that they ask us to read, we will see that somewhere there it says that it's going to be used, okay, but we don't. In exchange for convenience and efficiency and entertainment and better directions when we drive and so on, we give our life away, essentially.
So, Professor Papadimitriou, although it has been acknowledged that artificial intelligence will contribute to improving human lives, one question raised between researchers is who is going to control unethical artificial intelligence? What is your opinion about it, and what challenges will the world face if there is not a common consensus on a specific set of code of ethics?
You said it very well. Research in AI has advanced tremendously. We have extremely powerful artificial intelligence engines right now, essentially the last 5 years. The growth is amazing. Every few months, you read about something incredible and new that these systems, these machines have accomplished. It's very easy to be impressed. We should be impressed by all this, okay? I believe that the public and even scientists, even computer scientists, are a little bit too much impressed. Okay, so we should remember that these are the same programs. Okay, except that they can do incredible feats with tons of data. Okay, so they don't deserve our blind trust. Even in scientific works nowadays, you read something that one of these programs discovered is a priori should be believed, that it is some kind of golden standard. And that's wrong, okay? That's definitely wrong, because these machines make mistakes. They make embarrassing mistakes and they make catastrophic mistakes. The story is very well known that whenever these machines were used to make predictions for parole boards, okay, whether a particular prisoner should be paroled or not, they were biased. They were biased against minorities and against African Americans. Even advertising programs, programs that select advertisements, they always consistently underestimate women. They never present to them advertisements that have some intellectual content. These are programmed by biased people, and they reflect these biases and they exaggerate them greatly, okay, because they are very powerful engines, okay? So, and you are right. The proposal is sort of, the cliches that AI will fix AI. Through AI, we'll find new ways. And that's actually, it's not just a cliche. We are trying to do that, okay? But here is an interesting story, okay? So, the last couple of years, all the gigantic, the trillion companies have ethicists, okay? They have an ethical AI department, okay? So, and recently Google fired its most famous ethicists, both women, one of color, because they refused to publish lies. They were researchers and they were being pushed by the company lawyers to withhold the truth. Things are going to get worse before they get better, okay? So listen, I'm an optimist. Things will get better, but it requires vigilance and hard work and clear mind, okay? So
that's important. So, Professor Papadimitriou, as it is still scientifically examined what caused the outbreak of the COVID-19, the truth perhaps has not been communicated to the public, and conspiracy theories gain ground about the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. And amongst others, Bill Gates has been in the spotlight, while there are contradicting opinions or perhaps truths between opinion leaders. At times, issues about science for hire have been raised and the truth has been distorted. According to your opinion, how should the public interest be defended, and what is the role of the opinion leaders, especially in times of crisis, And is there a common consensus among the scientists about the origins of virus, despite the fact that they might have different approaches or opinions about it?
You are asking perhaps the most important question of the year. What is the role of politicians and opinion leaders? I will be unequivocal about this. The role is to listen to the science, okay, to the scientists. You know, as you said throughout your question, scientists don't always agree, okay? And scientists are people, and they have obsessions, and they obsess about details, and they argue about details and disagreement, okay? And of course, there are scientists who are scientists for hire, and they work for interests, governments, or companies most often, whose interest is to hide the truth not to be known. And you know this from tobacco, from sugar, from many. And there are also scientists for exceptionalism. Okay, so long time ago, I met somebody introduced me an astronomer that told me famous. He's the most famous astronomer who doesn't believe in the Big Bang. Okay, so that's a long time ago. So, and then I was thinking, okay, this guy had a choice. Either he will be the most famous astronomer that doesn't believe in the Big Bang, or he will be the 60th most famous astronomer who believes in the Big Bang. So he decided to be the most, you know what I'm saying? So there are scientists who say, okay, the consensus is this. I will be the one who will sort of, say something different, right? So all this happened, okay? But this does not change the fact that there is broad consensus about things, okay? That there is scientific truth, there is scientific method that arrives at the scientific truth, and when the scientific truth is discovered, except for weird exceptions, there is broad consensus, okay? And there is broad consensus about many things right now. We sort of know, we don't know exactly the details of where COVID-19 came from, okay? So, and we'll find out, okay? I think it's misleading to focus on the few things that there is still disagreement, okay? So, there is broad consensus that the vaccine is safe and effective, okay? And the vaccine is our best chance to get rid of the COVID, okay? There is broad consensus that our environment is in dire danger, okay? And it will take mobilization and vigilance to save it, to protect it, okay? Regarding the pandemics and virus, for example, 12,000 years ago, we had no viral diseases. And the reason is we didn't live with animals, okay? The closer we go to nature, the closer, the more we disrupt nature, the more we push forests back and we live closer to wildlife, the more, flu comes from ducks, okay? So, when we domesticated ducks, we got the flu, okay? So, and so on, okay? So HIV, monkeys, okay? So it's very predictable, okay? And unfortunately, the less and less we have left to nature, so, the more pandemics there will be in our future, okay? You mentioned Bill Gates. I don't know if you know, but he was my student back at Harvard, okay? We have written a paper together. Bill Gates, in my opinion, has done a lot of bad things to his company, so the way he led his company, a lot of great things also in technology, and has done a lot of good things as a philanthropist, okay? So, I don't think we should criticize him for the few good things that he has done, okay? So,
I knew that you had Bill Gates as a student, so you would know better. You have a personal opinion about him.
Oh, yes, I have an opinion about him, yeah. Somebody I knew at the time told me that I had said that I met a student at Harvard who is the smartest person I've ever met. Okay, so he's a very impressive man.
Professor Papadimitriou, you have lived in the United States for 48 years. This year is the 200th anniversary of the Greek Revolution. How do you feel about being a member of the committee Greece 2021? And what does Hellenism mean to you?
I'm a member of this committee that celebrates the 200th anniversary of essentially the establishment of modern Greece. And the reason I'm part of it is because I realized from the beginning that it's not a committee that organizes festivals, okay? So, it's about visualizing Greece for the next century, taking concrete actions for making this future brighter, okay? So, for example, with another Greek-American computer scientist, my former student, Christos H, we are, as part of this committee, the committee is supporting a new establishment of a new institute for artificial intelligence in Greece. Okay, so that's one of the actions. The other thing that I do for the committee, my other part, is about immigration. We should look back with pride at the millions of Greek immigrants, what they have accomplished around the world. And also, how can you visualize the future of Greece for the next 100 years without thinking about the role that immigrants in Greece will play? That's an important subject. And we are going to work to come up with a plan for this.
Because there are many Greeks around the world, especially after the financial crisis.
You are right. Greece has always had immigrants, even in ancient times, Byzantine times, so, and Greek immigrating elsewhere. And immigration, borders are recent inventions, okay? So, it used to be more free, much more free and interesting, okay? So having a lot of immigrants abroad can be brain drain, or it can be a strength, okay? So, for example, for China, it has always been a strength, okay? So there is no reason why it cannot be a strength for Greece also.
Of course. Professor Papadimitriou, you express your creativity through music and writing novels. Please tell us more about it.
Music. I'm an amateur musician, which means one, I love it, and two, I'm not good at it, okay? When I was a student, even in high school, I used to play music. We had a rock band. I was serious at some point, but I left it for science. And this had left a piece of mind dangling, okay? And I was fortunate in my 50s to have a now infamous band of computer science professors, okay? So, and play with them. And that was a very important part of my life. So, got in order, okay? So, I'm now happy, okay? Writing is different, okay? So, when I started to write stories, to write fiction late in life. Late. I was 50 when I published my first book, my first novel. But, it came to me as a complete surprise. When I discovered that I had this inside me, I wrote my first book, writing incessantly. And I knew at that time that I would be writing fiction all my life. So I have always been writing fiction 25 years. You came to mention Logic Comics. I'm now working on a sequel, on a second graphic novel of this continuation of the story. And my latest novel, Independence, is very much about Greece. Okay, so it is very family saga covering Greece, the revolution of 1821 until the beginning of the 21st century.
We're looking forward to reading it. Professor Papadimitriou, thank you so much for this great discussion.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching Modern Odyssey on BronxNet. Let's hope that reasoning will prevail and some of the greatest achievements, such as democracy and human rights, will be protected, and ethical use of technology will lead to a better quality of living. Γεια σας.